This is one half of the Shady Boys, one half of the Level Up Tag Team Champions, first ever, the Ace of Shades himself, Darren, Troy, Fable, DTF, and today we're all drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody, welcome to Drinkin at Moe's. Big Mo here. Be sure like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. I always welcome the conversations. Leave reviews on the podcast platforms. Today, I got with me a guy who you see all over Level Up Wrestling down there in California. Darren Troy Fable. I hope I pronounced that name right. I hate sounding like I butcher up names.
Nope, you got it. Darren Troy Fable, a.k.a. one half of the Shady Boys, a.k.a. the Ace of Shades himself, DTF.
All right. First question I usually like to start off with is what got you started as a fan? And then, we can start talking about what got you started in the business, because we kind of talked a little bit about that before we started recording.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I started as a fan, how most people started as a fan. I was a kid, and one day my dad said, "Hey, I got something to show you." And so sat down, started watching some wrestling with him. Fun fact, the first wrestling match that I ever saw was The Undertaker versus Jeff Hardy in a ladder match for the WWE title. So I came in with some pretty high expectations. Was never really allowed to watch wrestling because I had an overprotective mom who ended up just saying, "Screw it, do what you want." So I started regularly watching wrestling at WrestleMania 23. So WrestleMania is kind of like the year anniversary of me being a wrestling fan every year.
Gotcha. I do very well remember that Undertaker Jeff Hardy ladder match. I got started a little bit before with the oh boy, I can't even remember. This was in the era of like Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Road Warriors, way back. But
of course, all the classics.
All classics. And I mean, I maybe like you, when I got hooked, I saw the crowds and how they reacted to those guys.
Yeah.
And often how they would react to Undertaker or Jeff Hardy, and just they'd be going nuts. I'm like, oh my God, that is the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, WrestleMania 23, it was the Undertaker and Batista what sealed it for me forever. So
yep, oh boy. What definitely ended up sealing it forever for me, probably when the era of Stone Cold got started.
Yeah, that's what did it for a lot of people. Stone Cold was something else. Nobody could touch him, and nobody's gotten to that level since.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody ever will. I mean, there's people that have gotten pretty big up there, but Stone Cold, the way he just took it from where it was kind of floundering out, to be honest, and just strapped a rocket to his ass and just
yes, Stone Cold turned professional wrestling into what was something that just families would typically enjoy from time to time as a treat, into more or less a mainstay in most households. Something that families watch every week, and it was because they wanted to see Stone Cold flip off his boss and give him a stunner.
You live vicariously through him very much.
Of course, absolutely, all of us.
Then you start getting actually into the business. We talked a little bit about it before we started recording. With Level Up, which, credit to the trainers there. It's becoming, with the sheer amount of training schools, not just, well, in California in general, but Southern California in particular, there's so many training schools, but Level Up is quickly becoming like in my opinion, a destination site for, if you're anywhere near the area, you want to get trained there.
Yes, absolutely, which I'm thankful happened, because when I was looking into wrestling schools, for whatever reason, even though Level Up was only like 10 minutes away from my house, the internet wouldn't show me Level Up. Like, the only wrestling school that they would show me was SoCal Pro, which is up in northern San Diego. So I was fully prepared to start driving, 45 plus minutes every day, with not even including traffic, just to get some wrestling training, until a good friend of mine brought up that Level Up was just 10 minutes away. So that's how that happened.
Yeah, and I know the guy, the big honcho behind it, B-Boy, pretty much not just a legend, well, legend in Southern California, but a legend in independent wrestling in general. I mean,
yes.
you're seeing him pop, and thankfully after that injury he had, he's coming back. But I mean, ever since, you're seeing him pop up all over the place, like he's trying to make up for lost time with, all the independents in California, seeing him popping up periodically there on Game Changer Wrestling. It's like, I remember when I saw him pop up in that Hammerstein Ballroom show, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. If there's one thing that B-Boy or Benny will always do, of course he was going to come back. Not a single one of us ever doubted it. I mean,
oh yeah,
we knew he was going to come back with a vengeance. We knew he was going to be all over the place, and he was going to be reminding everybody who he is, and that's the OG.
Oh yeah, he is very much doing just that. Like you, I had no doubt he was going to come back. He just has that passion for it that you can tell. You could tell how much he hated being away from it. Being like actively performing. That you knew the moment he got cleared to come back, boom, he was going to be like a rocket, going everywhere and anywhere.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, even when there were, because, everyone on the internet talks. And of course, there were people saying like, oh, I hope this doesn't change anything. I knew it wouldn't. I consider B-Boy not only as like, my main trainer, but he's also been like a father figure to me. So I knew that there was no stopping him. He was going to come back. He was going to just tear it up with anybody and everybody. And if you follow him on Twitter, which I recommend, he's all over Twitter saying, give me whoever you want. Anybody you want, do it.
Oh yeah. Me being from now Omaha, Nebraska, I do follow him from like I said, way back when I was in, California, when I was stationed out there. Followed them ever since. There's guys out here that I'm constantly telling them, dude, we need to get B-Boy out here. You would kill it with him. So who knows? I've been trying to push for it out here. So hopefully someday. What is it like having a guy like that and getting him in there training you? Because everybody has their own style with training.
Yeah. With B-Boy, of course, we have our designated trainers at Level Up, the people who run most of the classes, but there's always a different tone when he's running class, because it's very nose to the grindstone. It's cardio, it's endurance, it's pretty much everything that he brings to any of his matches. he tries to draw out of the rest of us while playing to everybody's strengths, which is why we keep getting more and more students, because it's not just, I'm going to train you this way and you're going to do it this way. No, it's, I will show you what I know, and we will try to find a way to incorporate that into your own style so that you are your own standout person.
And that's a very good way of going about training, because like I mentioned, everybody has their own style. So when you're able to find that guy that's able to, pick from how he does his stuff, fits it into where he sees your strengths are, you can really get some good meshing there, and some good learning opportunities are sure to come up with that. I can only imagine.
Oh, always. And if it's, whether it's coming from him or any of the other trainers, are the Hunter Freemans, the Jordan Cruzes, Michael Hopkins, Njpw, the list goes on. Those are just examples of how training under B-Boy makes you better.
Yeah.
It's not just a pun, at level up, we level up.
that is true. I've heard and seen nothing but good things from people coming out of there. Early on in me doing this show, I actually talked with Hunter Freeman for it, and we talked very long about B-Boy in general, and how they run things there. Jordan Cruz, another talented individual who I'm hoping to one day get on the show. And I mean, obviously, if I could get B-Boy on to talk about, well, next topic I was going to talk to you about, wrestling bucket lists. You see, like, clear back to Cody Rhodes when he first left WWE, he had that whole list of, I want to face these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I have very much that bucket list of people I want to hopefully have on the show. B-Boy is very near the top of that damn list. As far as bucket list, what would you say is like on your wrestling bucket list? Where's some like people you want to face? Where's some places you want to perform at? That sort of thing.
Oh, well, I think I could give a good few names, because if I gave all the names, we'd be here all night.
Yeah, we can do a few.
For my bucket list, B-Boy was on it. B-Boy's still technically on it, because I would love to be able to have a one-on-one match with him, but I had a tag team match against him. Well, technically, I've had two separate tag team matches. I've been against him in a 6-man and a hardcore tag team match, which me and my current tag team partner, Remy Morgan, we had faced him, B-Boy, and Hunter Freeman in a hardcore match, a hardcore tag team match, and it was currently one of my favorite matches. So I was happy that I was kind of able to partially check him off my bucket list, but I would still love to be able to get a one-on-one with him.
Oh yeah, you bring up that match in particular, the hardcore tag match. I do remember before I talked to Hunter Freeman for his episode, I went to watch a handful of matches, and that match happened to come up. It was
it was a blast. It was violent. It was bloody. There was just about anything you could ask for. There were ladders, doors, chairs, tacks, barbed wire, just about anything that you would want in a hardcore match, except for maybe save a few like niches. It had everything you could have needed.
Awesome. Who are talk about naming a few? Who would you say are some other names that could be included on that bucket list?
Well, while I've had like a couple of just easier matches with him, Njpw is higher up on my list to have like a big one-on-one with. actually have started developing more tag team bucket lists since I'm more involved in the tag team scene right now. And right now at the top of my tag team bucket list for, matches that could happen in the foreseeable future would be the group Midnight Heat with Gibson and Eddie Pearl.
Okay.
Because those guys are just crazy. They were everywhere. They, up until Ricky's most recent injury, they were tag team champions for 3 big promotions, tag team champions for Progress, Defy, United Wrestling Network. I mean, in terms of who me and my partner could work with to get better and that level of experience, I feel like Midnight Heat is right up there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, me being a big fan of tag team wrestling, that's a match I wouldn't mind seeing. Another one that, I know they're on a little bit of a break because of an injury, but they were actually my first ever episode over Zoom. Very legendary. The SATs. I think that would be pretty big. They've done more East Coast work, but I've seen them venture out a little bit. That'd be a match I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, I've seen a good few of their matches. I have to agree. I'd like that, especially considering that I feel, hopefully I'm not blowing too much smoke up my own butt here, but I feel like me and my tag team partner, we wrestle a much, I don't want to use the word simpler, try to downplay anything that we do, but a much straightforward style. So teams like that are more into the story of a match rather than all of the high spots are people that we definitely throw our eyebrows up at a little more.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, from the matches I've seen of them with the likes of the Briscoes, and another tag team I'm huge on.
Of course,
oh God, I actually just my latest episode of the show talked with the promoter of Warrior Wrestling based out of Chicago, and they actually have them going up against the Rascals this Sunday.
Oh,
wow. That's a match I'm pretty damn excited for. I just ordered the show today.
I'm actually surprised I didn't catch any flyers for that. Wow. I'm sure that would be a great match.
Oh, it's gonna be an amazing one. The show's on pay-per-view on Pro Wrestling TV. That's gonna be this Sunday. They got 2 actually pretty good tag matches on there. I mean, when I get going on certain subjects, I could go on and on and on. Tag team wrestling is one of them. The other tag match that they got going on there, Lucha Brothers versus Brian Cage and Gringo Loco.
Woo! See, that's also a good one because, especially when you bring up Gringo Loco, just because I actually wasn't too familiar with Gringo Loco until about a month or so ago. So I've been watching a lot of his stuff, and Loco is a pretty good word to describe him. The guy's crazy. So now that I'm familiar with him teaming with Cage, like, yeah, that'd be a good one.
Oh yeah, I actually ran into Gringo twice. Most recently here about 2 weekends ago at Wrestling Revolver in the Des Moines area. Mm-hmm. He was in a scramble match for the Impact X Division Championship.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty amazing. They had, obviously the champ there right now, Mike Bailey versus Gringo Loco. There was Chris Bay. There was Billy Starks. And some names are escaping me right now, but the match was freaking amazing. Well, back on to you, because I feel like I got off on a tangent there.
Oh, sorry.
What are some of your like favorite matches that you've had? You mentioned the hardcore tag match against B-Boy and Hunter Freeman, which I mean, I highly recommend anybody that watches this show, when you're done, obviously finish the show, but when you're done, go and search out that one on YouTube. If you're a fan of tag team wrestling, you won't be disappointed. But what are some of your other favorites?
Well, I got a good couple coming to mind. So for a little bit, I was doing what was called the DTF's DTF Open Challenge, the Darren Troy Fables Down to Fight Open Challenge. And two come to mind, where the very first one I did, I fought Casey Douglas, who was in 8-Bit Lit with J2 Mattioli and Michael Hopkins. And another one was the first match in my rivalry with Rebel Storm. We had a lot of matches together when we were having our feud, but there was just something about that first match that just everything connected with the crowd. The crowd was there, just the chemistry, and so that match stands out to me a lot. Another tag match, myself and Remy Morgan, because Remy did his own version of the DTF Open Challenge, or it was the WTF Open Challenge. So we ended up creating the WDTF Open Challenge, where any tag team could accept, and we actually had two separate teams accept the Open Challenge. So we ended up facing the duo of Ruby Rays and Savannah Stone, as well as the tag team Riders of the Storm, who were Michael Hopkins and Rebel Storm.
Nice. Ruby Ray is another person I'm a little familiar with from my time down in California. She's had a bunch of matches against male talent, but the thing that I've discussed with the few people, including female talent, is people that like a lot of different wrestling styles. There's people that support it. There's people that, want to complain about anything, the detractors. You see it a lot more now with intergender matches. Ruby Reyes has had a number of them, but the way I describe it to people is everybody wants equality, equal chances for everybody.
Of course.
Prove that everybody's equal. And you know what? If there's a talent like Ruby Reyes has proven it, Billy Starks, a young talent out there, has definitely proved it. That, if you want to get in there and prove that, hey, I can get in there and go with the best of them, throw you in there with I've seen Billy Starks in there with people like John Wayne Murdoch, and get in there with top tier guys, and get in there and go, and you know what, prove every one of those detractors wrong. No better way to do it.
Of course. There's almost not a lot of differences anymore between men and women's wrestling, because women wrestle the guys now, especially on the indies. It's becoming more or less commonplace. I mean, going back how you brought up GCW, the tag team of Bussy, Alley Catch,
yes,
and Effie. Alley Catch is teaming with Effie against people like the Briscoes and people like that. So she's mixing it up almost regularly, more often than with men than with women.
Very true. Actually, just before I started recording with you, I had just got done watching. This wasn't an intergender match, but the match she just had on Impact, the Monsters Ball match with Masha Slamovich. Holy shit.
I I have that saved currently on my TV. I still need to go home and watch that one because I wanted to catch that one.
Oh yeah. So I loved it. I gravitate, regardless of gender, I gravitate towards those wrestlers that just have that intensity that you're just
Uh-huh.
like you can sense it. And those two right there, Slamovich, Alley Catch, they both have that.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of the women's wrestlers showing up in Impact a lot lately are just mind blowing. Masha, Alley Catch, Killer Kelly,
Mm.
all all those girls are just killing it. I need to just brush up my game so I can start mixing it up with people like that.
Though that'd be something to add onto that list. I know I'm trying to make sure I'm going to be able to make it out to this particular show, but I brought up Wrestling Revolver earlier. And you brought up Killer Kelly. She's actually going to be at the next Wrestling Revolver show in Des Moines. And I'm like, I want to be there for that.
Absolutely. Killer Kelly's great.
Oh, yeah. Ever since she's started popping up there in Impact, she's, we talked about that intensity. It's like you very much see that in everything from not just her matches, but promo segments and stuff. You can just sense that like intensity of that when she gets her hands on that opponent, that she's just gonna rip them apart. I love it.
Oh yeah, it always helps when the intensity is there, like you said. Not to parrot what you said, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's something that me and my partner always try to bring into our matches. We want people to think that we want people to know, not even think. We want them to know that we're there to fight. It doesn't matter if you're a man. You could be the Briscoes, you could be Bussy, you could be Savannah Stone, Ruby Rays, you could be Riders of the Storm. But step up. That's the message.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I always like to talk about something with my guests outside of wrestling. Like, what is the day in the life of you like outside of wrestling?
Oh, well, this is the part where everyone finds out just how boring I am because if I'm not, at a wrestling show, if I'm not going to training, and if I'm not at my day job, the place you'll find me more than likely is at home doing stuff around the apartment or just hanging out at home, catching my breath because I'm usually very busy. Because if I'm not at a wrestling show, I'm probably at work. So that's unfortunately where I am at currently. I'm hoping to get to the point where I can quit my job and focus primarily on wrestling and get more of a social life for myself. But for until then, I'm stuck being one of the more boring people out there.
Nothing wrong with that. Kind of the life of an independent wrestler.
Yeah.
You got your wrestling throughout the week or pretty much every weekend for a lot of the wrestlers out there, and it's almost like when you're not at the shows, you're not training, you're at home trying to take advantage of the little decompression time you get to have.
Absolutely, especially because there are times where work and just a bunch of different shows will just be fit into that small time frame. Perfect example, I just did a ton of work at my job this week, and I still have to do overtime tomorrow, and then I got to go out to Barrio Logan to defend the Level Up Tag Team Championships against Vulcan and Dick Mandrill, Los Otros, a brand new tag team that we have.
Nice. That match right there is, I know Level Up, they do a lot of things with their YouTube channel. Is that going to end up being like a live thing, or are they going to eventually post That match.
It's posted eventually. I believe that we do stream. I'm not. I'll have to. I don't want to give any false information. Have a bunch of people go check out a stream and have it not be there. But I know that it will end up on YouTube eventually. All of our content eventually finds its way onto our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that was the impression I was under. I wasn't 100% on live streaming, but I knew that I saw pretty regularly stuff popping up on the YouTube channel.
Yes, and perfect example, we just did a big content dump. So we just put like 3 or 4 shows worth of content up on our YouTube channel.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna have to go take a look at some of that because, you know, like we kind of mentioned, Level Up getting to be a destination site for people wanting to train to be a professional wrestler, and you know, putting on Level Up, putting on shows that you can tell the hard work that y'all put into training. So top-notch stuff.
Thank you. And you know, a lot of us are just so nose to the grindstone about it that I don't think a lot of us really even notice just how much like people are taking notice sometimes, because I was at the school for something or other last week, and one of the newer students came up, said, "Hi, you know, I'm such and such." I feel bad. It was my first time meeting the person. I don't remember. But and they said that they had seen a show over at a beach club down here called Mavericks between me and my partner, and that it was just how dislikable we were, that made them want to come be a wrestler, because they always wanted to be a big bad guy in pro wrestling. So I was like, me, you know who this is, right? And they said, yeah, you're DTF. I was, oh, okay.
Hey, that's gotta be that's a compliment that you can always carry with you. You know, you had somebody come up to you and say that, you know, seeing you inspire and how you conduct yourself in the shows inspired them to want to get in there. That's amazing.
It felt good. It was, I don't know if term, it was a bit humbling. It was also encouraging, because in wrestling, you're always kind of in your head about, you know, how's my stuff looking, how's it being perceived, how's it being perceived from everybody. So just hearing that it is affecting people on a positive note is always nice to hear.
Oh, I can very much relate. I know, with not so much on you know, getting in there and wrestling perspective. I know that oftentimes with this show that, you know, sometimes I can get in my own head with it and thinking like kind of being your own worst critic, you know.
Of course.
And just thinking like little fact that I brought up with a few of the people that I've talked to for the show. I have yet to, outside of editing, watch any of the episodes. I have not watched one episode of my show because I'm just like, oh, like I have fun doing it, but watching it back, I'm like, in my head, I'm picking stuff apart, like, oh, like I could have done that better. But then hearing compliments from people, which I'm very grateful and thankful that I've had some very positive feedback, that, you know, those things, is like, oh, okay, it's, somebody's taking notice and somebody thinks highly of it. So I'll take it.
Yeah, it's exact same boat over here. I unfortunately have to watch my own matches so that I can see what I'm sucking at and what I'm doing well, so that I can figure out, all right, this needs work. All right, that I should keep doing that. I should never do that ever again. But unfortunately, those notes for myself, I have to watch.
Yeah, No, I can imagine, you have to, when putting a match together, you have to figure out, okay, watching it back, because oftentimes in the moment, maybe you're not hearing the crowd and how they react, you know, finding out, okay, that worked, that not so much, that hurt to the point I don't ever want to do that again. you know
Yeah, I mean, and that also is a thing that pertains from just crowd to crowd, because there have been crowds where we have repeated some spots. Like, perfect example, in front of one crowd, we did the spot where it was almost the high spot of the show. The whole crowd loved it. They were loud, and we did it for another crowd who pretty much sat on their hands and could not have cared less.
Yeah, no, that is true. You do see people that they have those things that they kind of have standard, for the lack of a better way to put it, in their matches. And like you said, one crowd could just eat it up and another crowd couldn't really give a shit.
Unfortunately, and that's the reality, and it kind of just depends on the crowd. I always feel like every crowd needs that one, like, almost overly rambunctious, overzealous fan who's going to be loud and kind of give everyone else that energy to feed off of. Everybody needs that focal point who's gonna, yeah, come on, everybody, yeah.
That's very much me when I'm just at a show, especially the local ones here. Like, I always make it a point to, at some point, make somebody in the crew crack. Like, whether it's one of the wrestlers, the referee, a manager, photographer, somebody, I want to say something to just get them just busting out laughing. And sometimes I've accomplished it like before the first bell even rings, but I've had times where, one in particular, I love telling this story, where one of the sponsors for a show is this place, Ricky Rooters, and they have this saying, when I think it's, when things get icky, just call Ricky. But every time the ring announcer, he always does this pause to let the crowd say the second part. I'll always yell out before anybody says anything, "Don't call Ricky!" And just everybody in the crowd just busts out laughing.
And that's one of the best parts about wrestling, is the interactiveness of the crowd. There's virtually, except for getting in the ring or putting your hands on anybody, there's almost no rules to wrestling. Don't be vulgar, don't be a POS or anything. But I mean,
Yeah.
do what you want, enjoy yourself, have fun.
Oh yeah, no. Then that's the thing. They always say that there's that line, and that line exists like right at the ring apron. You don't want to cross that, because it's like they won't put their hands on you before you cross that line. Once you cross it and you're not a part of the match, anything goes at that point.
Oh, of course, because I mean, we don't know you, and I don't mean you as in like you, Mo. I mean,
Yeah.
you getting in the ring. We don't know you. We don't know why you're coming in. So we have to assume you're coming in because you've taken offense to something that has happened, and you are going to put your hands on us, and we're not going to let you put your hands on us.
Yep. And there's constant videos all over the internet of people jumping in and just getting the absolute crap beat out of them.
Yeah, it happens, and unfortunately, especially now in the age where everything goes up on social media, it can get turned around on the wrestler. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to protect ourselves. There are situations where it can be taken too far, of course, but
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we're leaving the show as healthy as we showed up to the show.
And that's the way it should be.
Yes.
Two categories that I have to kind of round off things. One bit of a name game where I name off some people, more often ones you've shared the ring with in one way or another. Maybe they help train you, whatever. We'll start off with that. I name off the people, you give me your thoughts on them, how you see fit.
Okay.
First off, we talked a little bit about him earlier, Hunter Freeman.
Well, that was my debut match. Hunter is one of the toughest guys I've met. So when we had that hardcore match with him, I knew we were in for it. I mean, Benny himself was part of CZW, who are known for their crazy stuff, but Hunter was following right in his footsteps. Hunter, perfect example. I mentioned I had my debut match with him. There's a great photo over on my Instagram account at Fable, of him putting a boot right on my face and breaking my nose. So he broke my nose my debut match, but it made for a great picture.
Oh boy, I can only imagine. And him following in B-Boy's footsteps in a way. I know he's got a show coming up. I'm guessing it's a death match show for Santino Brothers.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's death match. Hunter's probably going to be there.
Oh yeah, no, he is. I put him kind of in the same boat with a friend of mine up here. They call him the deathmatch daddy, and like more so here in Omaha, but starting a little bit in Iowa too. Having death matches, and he knows this. I've said, man, you're crazy, but he's actually finally getting the type of match he's always wanted, a no rope barbed wire match here. I just bought my ticket to it. I'm like, yeah, I have to be there, but you're nuts.
Yeah, I agree. Barbed wire is vicious. I was supposed to be thrown through barbed wire. Hunter Freeman was going to superplex me through a barbed wire door during our hardcore match, but luckily the current Ground Zero champion Jew Diz gave me and my partner a hand there.
I guess very
Without
good.
Spoiling anything for those who haven't seen the match yet.
Yeah. Next person, another person we kind of talked a little bit about earlier, somebody who I'm actually in the early stages of talking with to get on the show, Ruby Reyes.
She's God, not to throw this word because I just used it with Hunter, but she's tough. I have had, I want to say, 3 matches with her, and she whooped me each time. I tried to take the fight to her. She said nope, punched me in the mouth, ragdolled me over the ring. Ruby is, you were talking about earlier how in terms of women's wrestling, the term equality, well, Ruby Reyes is the equal opportunity ass kicker, and kicking something that I know personally she can do very well.
Oh yeah, no, she's the embodiment of a equal opportunity ass kicker. That is for 100% sure.
Yeah, we like to say you can step up and get it. Ruby Reyes does it every time. Step up and you will get
it. Yep, definitely. Next person on the list, we kind of talked a little bit about him. Seems to be the growing thing with people on this category. Jordan Cruz.
Cruz is a warrior. They call him the modern Spartan, but just how good he's gotten in these past couple of years is just insane. I mean, you can go back and watch a Jordan Cruz match from a year ago and watch a Jordan Cruz match from a week ago, and you'll see, okay, he was good then, but he's just getting ridiculous now. I mean, there's next to nobody that you can put him in there with, and they'll find a way to make magic with him.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
those guys that exudes that intensity we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah. Nope. He is definitely one of those guys that, like I said, I gravitate towards that intensity. He definitely has that. So I definitely gravitate towards watching him.
When
Next,
I met him, I was kind of scared of him when I first met him. I was like, I don't know if you don't like me or not, and I kind of want you to like me.
I can kind of see that being the case for a few people. I meeting him, I can imagine just from some pictures I've seen of him, I'm like, man, I can only imagine if I ever actually got to meet him, I'd probably be crazy freaking intimidated.
Cruz, like I said, he's a warrior. He's intense, but I mean, keep your eyes on him. Anybody who's listening to what I got to say right now, keep your eyes on Jordan Cruz. He's going to end up somewhere big, probably sooner rather than later.
No, I can agree. The sky's the limit with that guy.
Yep.
Next guy, last guy on the list, another guy who believe he was getting started towards the end of my time in San Diego, but he's definitely a guy to watch. Mike Camden.
Mike Camden. I mean, I was just saying it with Jordan Cruz. When I first met Mike, I was, in all honesty, I was scared of the guy. When anytime he would come in the door, I would think, God, don't pick me to like do drills or anything, because that guy's gonna just expose me for everything that I am not. That guy is going to outwork me. He's going to out cardio me. He's going to out grapple me, and that's because Camden's a wrestler's wrestler. He's tough. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't have to do all this insane stuff because he knows what he's doing. And I feel the confidence that he has in what he's doing. Like, why am I spacing on the word I want to use? It adds to his intensity and his legitness, because he's legit. And I've only had, I believe, 2 matches with Camden so far, a triple threat match and a tag team match, and it was just so eye-opening being in there with him, just because you can feel it when you're in there with him. He knows what he's doing, he's in control, and he's going to drag the best out of you, whether you like it or not.
Oh, yeah. Next category I used to call it a speed round, but it never ended up going that quick, so I just changed it to a random question round where it could be wrestling related, it could not be. You answer how you see fit.
Okay.
First question kind of ties into the title of my show, Drinking at Moe's. What is your favorite drink, whether alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Well, of course, I'm always a fan of water. I feel like everybody should have water somewhere on their top drinks list.
Yeah.
We're talking about, just easy drinking, like a soda, I would have to say, God, it always changes with me. But I think all time would have to be A&W root beer. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of root beer. I love it. Things like root beer, Dr. Pepper.
I'm a big Dr. Pepper guy myself.
If we're talking about alcohol, I can do simple beer. I can drink, Bud Light or whatever. But unfortunately, I have expensive taste in alcohol. I'm a mixed drinks kind of guy. My all-time favorite alcoholic beverage would be a White Russian. But I don't drink them that much because they tend to do bad things to me. So it's not too often that I have those.
Yeah, I consider myself more of a beer guy, but Mixed drinks, I probably go strictly good old margarita.
I enjoy a good margarita as well. It kind of depends on them though. I can be a little picky about my margaritas.
I can be like, I know when I'm having a good one and when I can find out they're just using the cheap shit.
Yeah.
But I remember having a couple with that tequila that George Clooney used to own. I don't think he owns it anymore. But I remember having a couple, and I'm like, when I was done, I'm like, dang, I'm gonna need to be done, because if I drink any more of this, I'm gonna be on the floor.
Yeah. Tequila got me probably the most messed up I've ever been. I went to a wrestling party with just kind of like a bunch of the names of like who's who here in SoCal, and I had brought with me a bottle of Don Julio Silver. And usually 2 or 3 shots of tequila is enough for me, and I had, I think, almost double-digit shots that night. So I was getting to the point where I was starting to rub some people the wrong way. I was starting to need to drink some water, calm down a little bit. I've been told I can be a little bit of a handful when I have too much to drink.
Yeah, I've definitely been at that point myself, which is why I have to try to limit myself whenever I do. Like, speaking of one time, I was at a wrestling show and actually did an interview for the show, and me being completely hammered at the time, I thought I locked my keys in my car. And I literally called my wife, like, you might need to come get me. And then as I'm talking to her on the phone, I'm like feeling around in my pockets, and I'm like, oh wait, I found them. I got my keys.
I mean, we've all been in those positions.
Oh yeah, everybody has had their times where they know that they probably should have calmed it down a little earlier than they did.
And they never do, because I never do.
They never do. That is for
and
sure.
I'm useless the next day.
you definitely feel it that next day for sure. Next question on this category. Who would you put on your list of, if you could go back in time and have a match against any, well, air quote, legend, who's like 2 or 3 that you'd pick?
Good 2 or 3. Let's see. Well, the first one would be one of my all-time favorites from back then would be Ravishing Rick Rude. I love Rick Rude. Macho Man Randy Savage is another one that's probably my favorite old school wrestler.
That'd be a good one.
And then, if I had to, I would like to pick a tag team one so that me and my partner could have one of those as well. And I would have to say that would need to be like peak Dudley Boys back in ECW.
Yes. Oh yes, the classic Dudley Boys back when they were damn near causing riots in the crowd.
Yep, that would be the guys that we want, because we pride ourselves on being dislikable. So we would take it as a challenge. We'd probably tell them, no, you're the good guys.
Oh man, I'd almost like to see that. I'd almost like to see
I would too.
I mean, hey, now I guess they call him Bully Ray is actually starting to get back out there. So I mean, who knows?
I mean, me and my partner, we do an homage to the Dudleys because in that hardcore match where we faced Hunter and B-Boy, we wore the old kind of camo pants that they would wear, and we have a finishing move. We do the 3D, but since we're the Shady Boys, we call it the Shady.
I like it.
Thing.
I like it. Um, let's see here. Next question. Craziest in-match moment.
Craziest in-match moment. Oh, God, I know for a fact that whatever I decide to share, I'm gonna think of something in like an hour or two, and just, why didn't I use that one? God, the craziest in-match moment. God, and there's still just so much that. The time where I got the broken nose with Hunter is up there, just because it. It was more on me. Just because I took that kick to the face and just heard nothing but ringing in my ears right after that.
Can imagine.
There was. I keep coming back to that hardcore match. I just loved it that much. But Hunter stuck me in the forehead with a screwdriver. That got pretty intense.
Oh.
There was a time I took a big flying knee to the nose in the middle of a match and almost broke my nose again. In terms of stuff that's like just absolutely like crazy, I don't know if I've got any stories that would top anything you've already heard.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Last question. Best advice for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Be ready to commit, because it's not one of those things where you can just start it and then just go back whenever you're feeling it. If you're going to go do it, go do it. Like, be ready to commit yourself 100%. Be ready to work as hard as you can possibly work, and then some. I would even recommend, if you're not satisfied with your physical shape, work on your cardio, especially cardio. Work on your cardio. You need to be able to go into second gear, into third gear, into fourth gear, and still be able to make it look like you haven't even gotten out of first.
Very good advice. I've heard from many people that, the hardest part is getting through that initial shock of like, oh God, what did I get my body into?
Yeah, those first couple weeks are going to be the hardest, but once you get through there, once you break through that barrier and you know that you can keep going, then there's going to be no stopping you, especially if it's what you really want.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely funny you bring it up like that. It reminded me of when a lot of people when I would work with kids, they'd ask about getting into the military, and I'd always tell them, make sure it's 100% what you want to do. Yes. Because you get in there, you're going to have those moments where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Why did I get myself into this? You get past that, you'll be fine, which very much sounds exactly like what you're saying there with wrestling. Make sure it's 100% what you want to do, and know that you're going to have that moment where you're like, oh God, why did I get myself into this?
Yep.
You get past that, you're going to be good to go.
Absolutely. The only person that's going to stop you is you. Like, for the first good 2 weeks, you're going to be going home from training every day with your legs feeling like they've doubled in terms of weight. Like, I live in an upstairs apartment, so going to the school and having to do 500 squats during training, then climbing up my stairs to get into my apartment it's going to be taxing. But if you can get through it, you're going to appreciate yourself for it.
Oh yeah. I remember one time I thought, I saw an advertisement for a local show that they were doing a pro wrestling boot camp for just anybody could sign up. So I was like, you know what the hell? Why not? And, they did, cardio. They let you get in, run the ropes, take some bumps in the ring. And I'll tell you, even that little bit that I got to do there, I was walking funny for about a week.
It's intense, especially when it's your very first day. Because I know there's some wrestling schools that will throw you into the deep end within your first week, like have you bumping and practicing all these things before you feel like you're ready. Which something that I appreciate about Level Up is you don't get to go to the big stuff until the people who need to be convinced are convinced that you are ready to move on, because they're not going to put you in there and run the risk of injuries happening to yourself or to whoever you're in there with.
Yeah, that is definitely a way I would prefer it be if I were getting in. I don't want the promoter, if they're running a show, being like, just throwing me in there to throw me in there. I would honestly prefer it, like you said, with Level Up. They're not going to put you in that spot until they know that you're ready. That's the way to go about it.
Yes, and that's what I feel. That's one of the things, just one of the many things that I feel makes Level Up so special is how the level of care that goes into what we do.
Oh yeah, no, everything that I've heard about Level Up and how they run their training sounds that they do exactly that. They put a lot of care into it. They want to make sure you're ready before they just throw you in there.
Absolutely, 100%.
All righty, that is about all I have. Want to give you a chance, plug, social medias. Where can people get their eyes on you?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Fable. That's DTFABLE, all one word. That's for either Instagram or Twitter. That's more or less where you could find me. I am on Facebook as Darren Troy Fable. You can add me on there. But my most active platforms would be Instagram and Twitter. And yeah.
Hey, I'll be sure to add that information in the description of both YouTube and the podcast platform so people can go give you a follow and keep their eyes on you.
Much appreciated.
Awesome. Want to definitely thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It was definitely a fun conversation. I wish you the best of luck in upcoming shows.
Absolutely, Mo, and thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.